The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah, good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Thursday, May 22nd, and today is a National Craft Distillery Day today, you guys.
Give it up for the craft distilleries.
Yeah. You know, it's also National Solitaire Day.
Okay. Celebrate that by myself.
Yes, Stone, you're gonna love this one. You're gonna love this one, Stone. It's also National Vanilla Pudding Day.
No, I'm not a vanilla pudding guy, Jason,
no vanilla pudding for you, huh?
No, I appreciate the thought.
Interesting. Well, it's also National Buy a Musical Instrument Day. That's you can get behind that, right, Stone?
I can get behind that. Yeah, I might have to learn to play this guitar that I have.
Yeah.
I got my guitar. Nice Martin, triple X cutaway.
Triple X.
Right. Yeah. Triple X.
Getting it.
Like thumbs up kneeling, triple X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, and it's also National Maritime Day. So shout out to all the Maritimers out there.
Shout out Maritimers.
Yeah. We love that good water life. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I'm about that. I am about that. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So thank you all for joining us from whatever platform you are joining us from. And we're going to kick it off with Mr. Stone Slade with a Texas update from what's been riling up in the Wild West down there yesterday. And man, oh man. And apparently he's looking for a new Delta 8 supplier. That's right. It is none other than the man himself, Mr. Stone Slade.
Oh, Jason, we almost got through the intro Delta 8 free, but you had to hit it.
I couldn't help myself, Stone. It was just, it was.
I got you.
Yeah,
Thanks, thank you, Jason.
Old habits die hard, bro. Old habits die hard.
I know. It's okay. They're gonna have to die possibly here in Texas anyway.
Oh man.
If you felt the tremors last night, that wasn't an earthquake. It was just Texas lawmakers once again fumbling the bag on cannabis policy. Senate Bill 3, the so-called solution to intoxicating hemp products, passed the Texas House in a 95-44 vote and is now sitting on Governor Abbott's desk like a flaming bag of political cowardice. Let me remind you, this bill doesn't just tweak a regulation here or there. It bans all consumable hemp products with any trace of THC, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, you name it. Never mind that these are all federally legal under the 2018 Farm Bill. Never mind that Texas small businesses built an $8 billion industry around them. And definitely don't mind the 50,000 or so Texans who rely on that industry to pay rent and put food on the table. Instead, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, in all of his boot-stomping glory, declared this bill a priority and refused to leave Austin until it passed. You'd think we were trying to fix the power grid or something. Even more insulting, while Patrick screamed, "What about the kids?" to push this hemp ban, he's literally been holding up a bill that would raise teachers' pay. What about the kids? Literally holding education hostage until he got his way on THC. So the kids can't have access to vetted hemp shops, but they can keep learning in underfunded classrooms with overworked teachers. Priorities, right? Here's what the bill really does. It turns the Texas Department of State Health Services into a de facto cannabis police force and adds criminal penalties for retailers and manufacturers. Possession of illegal hemp product can now carry more jail time than possessing small amounts of its evil cannabis cousin. Now, look, I get the whole we got to protect the kids argument, but licensed hemp shops in Texas have been ID checking and age gating since day one, even without being required to. Meanwhile, this bill punishes compliant, tax-paying businesses and hands a victory to the actual problem, the illicit market. It's a prohibition deja vu. It's not being driven by evidence or public health concerns, but by politicians and lobbyists who either don't understand the plant or worse, do understand it and want to crush it for the competition and their big friends in private prisons, big pharma, big alcohol, and big marijuana. This isn't just an attack on hemp. It's an attack on freedom of choice, on small businesses, and on Texans who consume these products for anxiety, chronic pain, PTSD, you name it. Lucas Gilkey of Hometown Hero is talking lawsuits against the state. Veteran groups, wellness advocates, and the Texas Hemp Business Council are all calling for a veto. Will Governor Abbott listen? That's hard to say. He's been a wild card on cannabis, sometimes talking common sense, and other times letting Dan Patrick lead him around like a show pony at a Baptist fair. If you're in the state of Texas, if you're in the Texas hemp business now, it's the time to flip the flag upside down, because this isn't just a policy shift. It's a distress signal, one that screams, we legalize it, we build it, and then we burn it all down. Welcome to Texas. Now hold your breath. I'm Stone Slade with the High at 9 News.
Golly, how'd the Baptists take us straying now?
Yeah.
Hey, it's all happening in Texas.
Jeez Louise,
Well,
Stone.
I mean, Stone, I don't envy you guys for sure. I mean, it seems like you're more and more hanging in the balance and unsure day by day. So it's, the answers are making the question a little more convoluted. Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a knee-jerk reaction that is an overreaction.
Yeah.
And the federal law says you have to have less than 0.3 THC Delta 9, which was the stupid thing they did. Now each state under the 10th Amendment has the right to make their own laws. But the way they do it, threatening to shut down schools if you don't give me what I want? Come on, Lieutenant Dan. The children. What about the children?
Very
full of
true.
shit. They're all full of shit. And it's a different paradigm than we're suffering here in California. But they're not making it possible for legitimate operators in the cannabis space, whether it's hemp or the other part of the plant, to actually do this. They just want to stomp on it. And the black market is just, laughing all the way to where they bury their money. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're so right about that, Dale, because all this is doing is fueling the illicit market and all of the trade, and basically from my understanding, Stone, how you said it, the penalties are strictly based on entrepreneurs, people that are running a business. Like it's not saying that basically, like, if you're caught in possession, like if you're driving down a car and you got an open pack of gummies in your car, that they're gonna be prosecuting you for this stuff, right? Like,
no, I mean, I believe that everything's on the table there. I mean, there's going to be certain Texas cities that have decriminalized it, and I mean, who's going to say whether those officers decide they can do whatever they want.
Yeah,
pretty much. So, I don't know, man. It's ugly. We didn't think that this was going to happen the way that it did, but here it is.
Man, Texas.
This reminds me of the Dan Lundgren era here in California, when
exactly,
our
Dale
AG was absolutely refused to allow anybody to smoke weed without sticking a boot up their ass. And local jurisdictions said, "Yo, go fuck yourself. We're not going to enforce it." And the battle royale was on. And you guys are just 25, 30 years later, but it's the same sort of battle. It's about control. And in our state, it was a Republican trying to force Democratic cities to stop allowing people to smoke weed. And it turned into a disaster for the Republican Party because they got their ass kicked And they really have been out of, the governorship and things like that ever since. So I don't know where this bodes for Texas, because there's a lot of people out there want to do what they want to do. And isn't that supposed to be the canon of freedom in the United States? If it's in my house, I can do what the hell I want to do. Why are you bothering me?
Exactly.
Yep.
You're right, Dale. And I'll say this: it's good to have this vote actually, so you can see exactly where people are standing and whatnot, and which politicians need to be attacked going forward. And I hear that there's a lot of steam behind someone that's going to be running possibly for Ken Paxton's seat in this next election that is going to be running against him. That I hear the cannabis industry is really behind right now.
I think Ken Paxton may even be leaving his seat to run against John Cornyn. I had heard that. Right, so he'd abandon his seat. Is that how that works?
Yeah. Well,
I need somebody to run against Dan Patrick. So Dan Patrick has got to go.
Yeah. Dan Patrick is the problem in all of that, and it sounds like the only thing that's going to fix this ultimately is a legislative fix, unless Governor Abbott ends up vetoing the bill, which is a possibility, slim possibility, but it still is a realm of possibilities. And other than that, people just got to continue to, be like Trump and fight. See what I did there, Stone?
Yeah. So anyway, under SB3, possession of consumable hemp products containing THC, like Delta 8 and Delta 9, would be classified as a criminal offense. The bill does not create a separate category for hemp-derived THC products, meaning they could fall under Penal Code 481, which handles controlled substances like marijuana. This potentially puts hemp-derived THC possession into the Class B misdemeanor or higher category, depending on the weight and form, and up to 180 days in jail and $2,000 fine.
Wow.
Interesting. Well, I do believe that there's going to be some lawsuits, Dale, and I have a story that is a follow-up story that we're going to cover later today that's going to kind of explain why I think that there'll be a number of lawsuits in relation to this. But thank you so much for this story, Stone, and this update. We appreciate you being here. Stone is getting ready to hit the high road today with the wife, and so we appreciate you coming in, getting your story in, and you know what I'm saying. All good, bro. Travel safe, and we'll see you next
Thank
week.
you, guys.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully tomorrow you could smoke weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Oh, yes, and we are back, you guys, and we're going to roll right into Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that can help you get your life back on track if you're a justice-impaired individual, as well as if you've been staying on the track and get your life back on track. That's right, it is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
If you stay on track, you don't have to get on track, Jason.
That's right.
Stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
That's right, I'm not mad at that.
All right, so I'm pivoting, and I'm going to take the psychedelic story today because I found an Instagram post that was about this story, and I had to go do a little diving to find the story, but it's actually really cool, and it's great news for people who are suffering from depression. So, a powerful new study is shedding light on a breakthrough treatment for depression, one that acts fast and lasts for months. Researchers in Brazil have found that inhaled DMT, a short-acting psychedelic compound, produced rapid and sustained antidepressant effects in people with treatment-resistant depression. The study, published in Neuropsychopharmacology, mouthful, found that symptoms improved within a single day with benefits lasting up to 3 months. DMT, known as the active ingredient in the Amazonian brew ayahuasca, was administered in a vaporized form, allowing for a profound psychedelic experience that lasted just 10 to 20 minutes. 14 participants received 2 doses in a single day under medical supervision. The results? Depression scores dropped dramatically. By the next day, 79% showed improvement and 71% were in remission. Suicidal thoughts also plummeted, with nearly 90% of participants entering the trial with suicidal ideation and none experiencing severe ideation after treatment. Lead researcher Dr. Gerulio Di Araujo, probably butchered that, so sorry, said the most surprising outcome was just how strong and consistent the clinical response was, especially given the short duration of the psychedelic effects. Importantly, the study also showed that the intensity of the psychedelic trip didn't determine outcomes, suggesting it's the process, not just the experience, that drives healing. With no serious side effects reported, researchers say the therapy was well tolerated and efficient, offering a promising path forward for mental health systems needing scalable solutions. Still, they caution this was a small, open-label trial and more rigorous research is needed. But for now, this work offers a glimpse at a new frontier in mental health, where even ultra-short psychedelic experiences may hold the key to restoring hope for those in deepest need. So I think this is awesome. There are tons of inhalable DMT products. It's best consumed inhaled. For those of you guys that don't know, you kind of smoke it off of a rig, sort of, or you can take a vape. But this is actually really cool because DMT is something that is a pretty quick trip. It's the spirit molecule, right? So it's supposed to give you like an introspective, go to space, meet with your future former internal self and outside of the 3D. But I think it's really cool that there's actually working on medical research, and 90% reduction in serious suicidal ideations is huge, and could change a lot of people's lives and make sure they still have one to change. So I think that this is awesome. I'll throw it back to you guys and get your thoughts on it.
Now, this is building from research that started in the 1950s. It was very clear. Clear enough that before all this double-blind testing and things we have in the modern era, people would have been using psychedelics to deal with moderate to severe depressions and things like that. And DMT, I mean, I don't know how the Indians in South America found it, but it works, and the results are profound. To try to pretend like they're not is just, having rectal myopia again for the results of this. And I just, what I remember is that when they were doing testing on Prozac and they hid the results, that Prozac was no better at depression than a placebo, but psychedelics were like this, profound in their effect. And yet Prozac was on the market and they hid all those results. So there's a lot of things going on here that are a threat to the pharmacological patents in the industry. And from my view, I don't give two shits where there's a threat to them. I'm looking for ways to stop, veterans from shooting themselves and things like that. And anything that stops them from doing that, I'm against. And we should be doing big studies with this, big studies. There's a lot of people out there with profound depression. And if this could unlock their lack of ability to have insight, and then couple that with therapy, my God, where could we go with this? It does threaten, the pharmacological business, because they want to give you their favorite pill that they can patent and charge the shit out of you for it, rather than one that's actually effective.
Yeah, no, I'm with you guys all the way on this. I think this is a fantastic story. I'm so glad that you brought this up, Jenny. I mean, DMT, the spirit molecule, it's the one molecule that's in every single living organism in the planet. And you have bursts of DMT in your brain at 2 points in your life: when you are born and when you die. And I think doing DMT gets people more prepared for what happens in the afterlife. And makes them calm at ease, and so that is not as not as a scary thing for a lot of people. And I think that might be one of the reasons that it helps so much with people's depression and anxiety and whatnot, because ultimately it is the one thing that everybody is promised, is that you're going to be born, you're going to die, and that's pretty much, what I mean. There's no way getting around that.
Well, but if you've got severe depression, it's refractory to most medicines. And that's a big problem out there. This offers at least some hope, but to bring this into psychology and to psychiatry. Yeah, in our family, we had both a psychologist and a psychiatrist in the family. And one was Jungian, one was Freudian. And when you get to a point where you just can't untangle the slinky inside somebody's mind, twisted slinky apart and then bring them back and start again with therapy. I mean, this needs to be explored because I'm not a big fan of the synthetic pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
I'm not, because they get turned into a patented pill that's just a moneymaker, and you lose sort of the impact of the Hippocratic Oath. Don't do harm. First of all, don't do harm to your patients. And this has all gotten wrapped up with the government telling physicians how to practice now, not based upon logic and objective science, but based upon patents and people lobbying them and who's in their ear telling them to do or not to do stuff.
Yep.
This is in the hands of the people. You can get your hands on DMT or ayahuasca without having, right now there's a trap market in basically every damn thing. They can't stop this. And putting up roadblocks when you get this kind of a profound response, okay, and having any roadblock to stop you, I just don't understand it. It seems inhumane to me.
I'm with you, Dale. I just think that ultimately, though, this thing with the DMT, they, I was on antidepressants like in the 90s after I had a seizure. Okay, they put me on some antidepressants, and then finally, because I was taking some anti-seizure medicine, and then I'm taking the antidepressants too. And then I told them that I was having a side effect from the two interacting, and then they tried to put me on another thing, and then that's when I had like my eye awakening moment. I was like, holy shit! I was like, this is how you get all these people taking fucking 8, 10, 15 different pills. I was like, this is the cycle, and I'm like, there's no way in hell that I'm jumping into this cycle. And I quit my Dilantin and everything else immediately, cold turkey. They say that with that Dilantin, you're supposed to wing yourself off, but I was just like, screw all of this. I would way rather have fewer days as being my normal self than being the person that these drugs make me. And I was not a happy camper on any of that stuff.
Oh, and CBD is effective for seizures. I mean, that's been proven already. And so when you step back and take a look at the panoply of choices, and in the allopathic medical community, they really are trying to force you into a pharmaceutical approach based upon the drugs that the pharmaceutical companies have convinced them are effective. Okay? And my father-in-law was a psychiatrist. I've talked to him many times about this, and he recognizes there's a lot of things out there that can break a logjam. It's not necessarily a pharmaceutical drug you can write a prescription for. If it works for you, then you should be encouraged to do it. Now, don't be stupid and don't go out and hurt other people about it. But if you've ever seen somebody profoundly depressed and struggling, and they got a bag full of goddamn psychotropic drugs, one to fix the side effects of another that fixes that's a corner you can box yourself into, and the other thing is you jump out the window and kill yourself. Yeah. And that's where I draw my bottom line, because I've got so many veteran friends that are on the edge of killing themselves until they find a way to break through. A lot of them use DMT, use other, ketamine is used. There's just a whole panoply out there, and the government's trying to make us all be criminals. Okay. For the end of the 1800s, there was no such thing as being a criminal for using a substance. It just didn't exist. And since then, they have really tried to rocket up the criminal sanctions against people doing shit. It just makes them feel better. And I'm for freedom. Leave fucking people. If I'm doing something in my own house and I ain't hurt nobody, what the fuck's business of that of the government? Especially if it's making me.
Exactly.
My libertarian streak in me. In medicine, they're a bunch of pussies. They just do what the government tells them to do. And I'm kind of irritated at them, too.
Fair enough. You have any other final statements you want to throw in this, Jenny Beth?
No, sir.
All right. Well, on that, we're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He's represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet and nasty, and he's honest and unconcerned with your opinion, public opinions, and everyone else's opinion, and will show you how to defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right. There's your favorite Tio Loco Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of Dale Schafer. It is Mr. Attorney at Law, Mr. Dale Schafer.
Good morning once again, folks. It's your favorite Tio Loco. Once again, your favorite full of shiticus. And I've got a story this morning from somebody I think's a little privileged. And this comes out of MJ Biz Daily. Headline is Why Resilience Isn't Optional in Cannabis. It's the business model. A guy named Anthony Niglio. And if I understand it, Anthony's the CEO and president of a place called New Lake Capital Partners, a real estate investment trust. I think it's out of Connecticut or something like that. And he is, his position is that the tariffs that that Donald Trump has imposed, he'll be able to get through them. If you've thought about this and you're capitalized and things like that, you're going to be fine. The bulk of the expenses in a cannabis business are not vape carts or packaging. They're labor and, leases and things like that. And to a certain extent, I agree with him. But I've been working in the industry for a very long time now, and not everybody has a deep pocket to turn to. If you're a startup, especially if we're trying to get you in as a social equity startup, capital is hard to get your hands on. So you end up spending your own money, and maybe the local government will give you some money with a lot of strings attached. For people like that, if you have to buy equipment, okay, and most of the equipment we're talking about, and I've helped set up some manufacturing facilities, you find a lot of it in Europe or out of the United States. This equipment for closed loop systems, things like that. A lot of it comes from out of the country. So if there's tariffs on that, it's going to be more expensive to start up. And you can look for other places to get vape carts and packaging, and they're going to start doing it. They're striking deals in places like Vietnam, and you'll be able to get stuff that's less tariffs on it, and it might not be as big a problem as it could be if you continue to buy from China. There's a piston match going on between Trump and China right now. Mm-hmm. And I can't say I blame them for having it, because they're stealing our intellectual property. And, it's a one-sided adventure here, basically. We're selling a lot of, or buying a lot of shit from them. They're not buying an equal amount from us. And they're just thieves. They're stealing our intellectual property. I'm really irritated about that. But one of the things that Anthony also says is that be careful about the black market. Because if you force operators to have to raise their prices, okay, that then takes away any position they have vis-a-vis the trap market. Because people are looking for the cheapest and the easiest to get your hands on. Mm-hmm. If you have retail stores and people can get to them and they're reasonably priced, hope is they would go there. But if you make it more difficult and more costly, okay, and people are looking, hey, I can buy a vape cart for $25 from the guy around the corner, okay, or I can go spend $50 in the legit shop. Where do you think they're going to go? It's not even rocket science. And that's the struggle we continue to have across this country. That nobody has really flipped the green light to let cannabis just be wide open like alcohol. Okay, mm-hmm. Apply for a state license, and then no local jurisdiction can really stop you. We don't have that. We are still, as I like to say, we're the redheaded stepchildren still, but we're dressed like the Hamburglar. They think we're all just a bunch of criminals. So nobody really wants to give us credence and make it so that it's possible to do this. They want to keep making it harder. What this guy is saying, I believe if you are well capitalized, and it sounds like he works for a company that has deep pockets here, and it's possible to do this. I mean, if you can go for years without making a profit or very minimal profit, okay, and you can sustain that because you've got the financial backing, then I'd love you. You're probably going to survive. And that's what people are calling corporate cannabis. Okay, you've got money, you can weather the storm. But if you're the people I'm working with, social equity people, smaller operators, don't have a lot of money, you just box them into a corner where there really is no place they can go. Okay, and they lose their ass. They're out of it. Their last life savings is gone, and the big operators are still there because they have the cash to weather not making money for some period of time. I'm going to throw us back at you for what you guys think, but I think Anthony is, we're resilient in the industry because we have to be. But fuck, anything that costs more money, regulations or taxes or tariffs, is just going to make it more difficult for the industry to survive.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, a lot of it is based around these taxes and whatnot, Dale, and that is the biggest stranglehold on the industry overall, in my opinion, is the erroneous taxes that are going on in the industry. But cost of goods and things like that are always going to go up, and inflation is real, and it's very unfortunate. And you got to be so resilient in cannabis to be able to keep fluid.
Well,
It's
I mean,
rough.
the tax rates are based on revenue, right? So like those. Yes, are they overtaxed? Absolutely, we're overtaxed egregiously. But look at licensing fees. Look at the fact that I'm dealing with an operator right now who got a $30,000 fine from the DCC, and if they want to fight that or dispute it, it'll take them minimum of 3 months, and they have to pay $5,000 for the ability to dispute, which is absolutely illegal, by the way.
That's crazy.
DCC. So, I mean, when you're looking at operators having to pay anywhere between $30,000 to $50,000 in annual licensing and renewal fees. Like, that's the chunk that nobody socked away $50,000 because the DCC was like, hey, we need this now. Or the DCR said, hey, you need to pay your renewal, but you also need to pay your annual application fee. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, really? We need to pay both of those? Oh, you have 3 license activities because you're a micro business, which a lot of social equity applicants are. Yeah, we're going to do that times 3. Oh, you paid it the day after? Here's a fee that's 100% of the. Oh, I'm sorry. I believe it takes it to 120% is what the fee actually becomes. So, yeah, dude, like when we're looking at $40,000 invoices for the city alone before you've even touched what the DCC wants, they don't want us to operate. And that's the fucking point. Capital is hard to raise. There's very low returns for investors right now. Nobody's very excited to jump into this anymore because they've all had their asses burnt either by bad partnerships or just by the fact that the industry is just not that lucrative anymore. So, I mean, it's just taxes are one thing, but look at what's being done by the regulatory bodies.
That's a great.
Well, California is the quintessential problem you can point to because it's right here. They're fighting about whether to go from 15 to 19% for an excise tax at the state level, and then at the local level they can tax and regulate too. So when you add up not only the hard costs for taxes, but the regulatory and compliance costs are just you can't survive. And I'll just point out that if you are getting a vape card and packaging, I'm not an accountant, so I don't take this as tax advice. I think you can write those off as cost of goods sold. Okay? What you don't get to write off is employee costs and other things like that. And so they are killers in the industry. I don't give a shit if it costs an extra, $1 for a vape card. Okay. Not as, because you can write off your taxes. Big one is these, triple net above market rate leases that go on for years. Okay. And all the other compliant, and as Jenny Beth said, when you get slapped with a penalty, attorneys are expensive, and this is not insured against. Okay, you don't get an insurance company to send a lawyer in. I used to get hired by insurance companies going to fix shit, and my clients never got a bill. Yeah, it's not what happens in the industry. Unless you put in attorney's fees clauses, and you're having a pissing match with one of your partners, the state can't get attorney's fees back from them. Even if they lose, they don't pay your attorney's fees. You're just shit out of luck. And these are the kind of costs that are there all the time. But there isn't enough of a margin in the industry to put away money to do this. So I try to mediate and solve disputes without going to court because, damn, it's expensive to go to court. Yeah.
Very, very, very expensive. I mean, Dale, you're not cheap.
No. Yeah. Well, I'm a lot of shit, but I'm not cheap. My bread and butter is my time and my experience. I've been doing this for damn near 40 years, and I've been through a lot. Yeah. So I charge for my time. Exactly. And I'm not afraid to tell people that. I mean, the old part of the problem in the industry is the kumbaya. Okay, the hog farm, you're all going to go out and do everything for each other. No, this is a fucking business. You got to run it lean and mean. Yep. If you don't, you are out of business. Yep. And I do want to welcome Jay McGuire coming to join us from the great state of Texas to comment on some of these other stories that we're going to be commenting today. Jay, you have any comment on Dale's story? I know you caught it here in the tail end. You might be on mute, Jay.
There we go.
I caught the very tail end of it, but I'm pretty sure that I'm 100% on Dale's side, whatever it is. This is not a moment to engage in the kind of circular firing squad that goes on in this industry, and when we need more friends and less enemies right now. So Dale, you're my bud.
I'm an asshole for hire. That's what I am.
Yep.
What's that?
I'm an asshole for hire.
Hey, that makes two of us. I liked what you had to say about the, not holding hands and singing Kumbaya. I mean, that's definitely the expectation is that advocates and advocacy organizations will spring forth, fully formed like Minerva from the head of Jupiter, and save the day. When the fact is many of them have been sniped at and starved and not, invested in by some companies that, carry their own government relations teams, and then others that just don't know what the hell is going on all the time and don't trust anybody. And so in moments like this, when we've got a bill up on third reading in the Texas House that recriminalizes everything we make as an industry, everything we sell, so 6,000 businesses, maybe more, are going to, overnight become felons if this bill is signed. And trying to stop the bill has been difficult because of industry infighting, and the sort of need for secrecy and control on the part of some, and the need to tear that down on the part of others. And all I'm trying to do is get the word out, and to tell y'all what is happening that is so nefarious about the Governor Patrick's plan.
Well, Jay, we're gonna go. We're gonna go into that in our next story.
Good.
We're going to go into all of that in our next story in relation to. So on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back. We can work on that too.
I'm gonna have plenty to say in the coming weeks.
All right.
Oh, please jump in.
Oh, yes. And we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And if you're a little sad, make sure that you order a case of Liberal Tears. You can use the link in the description in this bio of this video to make sure to order a case sent directly to your house. It'll make you feel better. It's 150 milligrams of caffeine inside. No THC, nothing, no sugar. You know what I mean? Just pure snowflakes from liberals. So enjoy yourself a case today. I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. That. So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi. Oh, yes, and we are back, you guys. We are back. All right, Jenny, I'm just going to go on the story, or you said that you wanted to do an introduction. Are you okay? You all right over there? Getting all comfy?
No, I'm not. We got the highest Republican on the High at 9 News, the biggest pain in my butt, the very needy this morning, Jason Beck.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny, Jenny. Pretty funny. But nonetheless, you guys, and I'm not sure, Jay, I think you might have wrote this article. I'm not sure.
In the Texas Hemp Reporter article?
Yep.
Yes, I did.
All right. Well, and Jay, we have the author of it here joining us, but here I'm gonna read it for you. Because of bad science and political raids and the setup behind SB3 in the great red state of Texas. In Texas, we've seen this before, a political agenda dressed up as public safety and a complement bureaucracy and the weaponization of bad science to justify bad law. But this time, it's not marijuana, it's legal hemp. And the state's own forensic watchdog warned them not to do it. That's right, because back in July of 2021, the Texas Forensic Science Commission, better known as FSC, issued a report questioning the reliability of gas chromatography testing methods, specifically the kind used by Armstrong Forensic Laboratory in determining THC levels in cannabis samples. The problem? GC destroys the chemical integrity of the sample by heating it, converting non-psychoactive THCA into Delta-9 THC, and the result? Legal hemp often appears hot when tested this way. By April of 2025, the commission had grown more urgent. In a formal warning, it told prosecutors and law enforcement not to rely on GCMS without derivatization on the exact method Armstrong was using, because it does not distinguish between THCA and Delta-9 THC in processed products like vape pens and edibles. The commission's position was clear. GC is not specifically valid for the enforcement of Texas hemp laws. The right tool? Well, you ask. Well, high-performance liquid chromatography, better known as HPLC, which preserves the cannabinoid profile without artificially inflating THC levels. And they say, despite having access to state-run accredited labs that use validated HPLC methods, the Texas Department of Public Safety, better known as DPS, chose Armstrong Labs. Why? Because Armstrong's flawed GC testing produced the kind of hot results that could turn lawful retail inventory into a felony contraband on paper, you guys. That's right. This wasn't just negligence, it was selective science shopping. DPS bypassed better labs and used the one that would give them the numbers needed to justify search and arrest warrants. It sounds like these guys had learned something from the cannabis industry. Those warrants led to a coordinated series of raids in August of 2024 across North Texas, most prominently in Allen, where 9 hemp retailers, nearly all minority owned, were raided. Doors were kicked in and products were seized and people were arrested and lives were disrupted. And when asked about the scientific controversy, DEA Special Agent Eduardo A. Chavez, standing behind a row of local police chiefs, said the quiet part out loud. He said, in a quote, "We're not going to get into a scientific debate," he says. That's because there was no debate. The science was already settled, just not in their favor. The timing and utility of these raids are no coincidence. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, a longtime prohibitionist, has made clear his desire to eliminate the hemp-derived THC market, along with Senator Charles Perry. He introduced Senate Bill 3, a sweeping measure to criminalize and regulate hemp in ways that would effectively shut down thousands of small businesses statewide. But Patrick's proposals needed fuel, a sense of public danger, and that's where the Allen raids came in. News coverage of the raids, complete with sensational claims about high THC products and cash seizures, created the illusion of widespread criminality, and those raids and the test results behind them became Exhibit A in the Senate's push for SB3. In reality, the entire operation was built on sand, and the lab method was known to be invalid, and the warrants were based on forensical unsound advice. The prosecutions have largely stalled or gone unfiled, but the political damage was done, and the policy momentum created by those raids is still being used to push bans, criminal penalties, and massive regulatory overreach. Dozens of stores have closed and millions in assets have been seized, and Texas entrepreneurs, many from immigrant and minority communities, have been branded criminals for selling federally legal hemp products. Some of the retailers caught in this net can't even afford legal counsel. Their bank accounts are frozen and their reputations have been destroyed, all because DPS chose the wrong lab on purpose. Some may argue no laws were broken, but that's the problem. When law enforcement uses scientifically invalid methods, even after being formally warned twice by the state's own scientific authority, it isn't just a technical error. It's an abuse of power under Texas Penal Code 39.03. This pattern begins to resemble official oppression and public servants using their authority to target people unjustly under the color of law. And the Fourth Amendment may also come into play because raids based on scientifically discredited probable cause are ripe for constitutional challenge. The state didn't just bend the law, it bent science and it bent justice. Dan Patrick's prohibitionist crusade depends on the belief that hemp stores are fronts for drug dealers, but the science doesn't support the claim, and neither do the facts. What we're seeing is the deliberate manufacture of criminality using rigged lab results and coordinated enforcement, all to push a bill that benefits entrenched political allies and clears the market for a few operators who can afford to comply. This is just Reefer Madness 2.0, driven by bad labs and busts and big lies, and I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say about this. And we're so fortunate today to have Jay McGuire, the author of the article, on here to talk about this as well, right from the great red state of Texas. What do y'all got to say?
Should probably let Jay start on this one. Oh, go ahead, Dale. Sorry.
Well, I would hope that could file a motion to dismiss based upon this testing nonsense. Because if you have an accurate test that shows that it's THCA is a lawful product, but their test is Delta 9 now because they heat it up and decarboxylate it.
Yep.
I think that's where you start the fight, because this is horse shit. They don't like what the law says. So you're right. They're trying to manipulate the results. And if you don't really care about Delta 9 or THCA, then sure, get GC testing. No, I don't think anybody cares. But if you're going to put somebody in prison, this is not how much THC's on your package or in your product. It's like you're going to jail. You're losing everything. I get a little butthurt about, people just playing fast and loose with this stuff. The law is what the law is. It's very technical, and the truth is very expensive and hard to get to, so most people don't pursue the truth. But if the truth is it was THCA and not Delta 9 when the cops got it, you should not be allowed to turn it in to Delta 9 after the cops get it and then charge you ex post facto with a crime that didn't exist at the time you were stopped. That's the fundamental constitutional problem I have with this. It's bullshit and it's manipulation. And if you're going to take away someone's livelihood or put them in jail, there's a thing called due process. And there is the Constitution, and it should stand for something.
Go for it, Jay.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. And let me layer on top of what you said in the bigger sense, what turning THCA into Delta 9 to convict somebody is one thing. Turning THCA, which is legal, into Delta 9 in order to rig the vote for a bill that will criminalize everything. It sort of creates it's a circular problem, because obviously they didn't need to pass a law if it was already illegal. But we know it's not illegal, and I know from this book full of certificates of analysis from hundreds of products conducted by labs all across the country, all of which are DEA registered and certified up to the standard, the ISO standard. But this one lab that our Department of Public Safety, which is the state police, began a dialogue with months ago to find out what that lab director would do, the method that they would use. We have a record going back to 2021 of that lab's methods being questioned. The lab director says that THCA is always illegal, and there is evidence that she colluded with DPS to make sure that they knew that they would get the hot result that they were looking for. And so on that basis, Armstrong Labs tested the samples that were obtained by confidential informants and undercover police in probably dozens of cases. And those COAs were used to obtain warrants from magistrate judges, and those warrants were executed in a series of highly politicized and publicized raids publicized raids that involved people being, one guy torn from his bed literally at 5 a.m, thrown into the back of a squad car while his wife and kids had to watch, and his house tossed, everything he owned, wallet, watch, car keys, cars, all of his assets frozen. And he was made to look out like, made to look as though he were El Chapo. He's just an average, ordinary business guy trying to make it, has a chain of stores. There's a lot of those kinds of stories. And those were the stories that the news picked up. What they don't know is that the whole thing was rigged by one guy, our lieutenant governor, who made this his number 3 priority for the legislative session and has continually ratcheted up the pressure on the House to pass his bill. It's pending on 3rd reading today at 3 o'clock. They passed it last night on 2nd. What we're going to end up with is DPS in control of what remains of the industry as the regulator, with tremendous new criminal charges that they can bring if the amendments in the House amendments to SB 3 were to be enacted. A paperwork error that a liquor store owner would get a fine for at the most would be a felony for us. And so what they're doing is relying on the old reefer madness tactics and just the underlying lie that THC is just so dangerous that we have to protect the kids from it. And that means that we can deny rights to grown men and grown women making free choices in a free society because we have freedom in Texas. That's what we're supposed to be about. But Dan Patrick wants to make sure that you don't have that choice and that this $4.5 billion industry will be criminalized overnight when this bill passes and if Governor Abbott signs it. All based on one lab willing to bend the science to what they want.
Man, Dale, I mean, is there possible any kind of like legal precedence that if there's some lawsuits that are filed, because I hear that there's lawsuits that could have already been filed or got filed today or whatnot, that could ultimately overturn this legislation due to different type of verdict in court?
Well, there's the possibility. Okay, and one of the problems we face is that 10th Amendment gives states the power to do a lot of things for their own health, safety, and welfare. And that's where they're going to argue this falls within. Okay. But I would argue that this is an ex post facto situation where they're trying to criminalize stuff that's already going on, and people have been operating as if it was legal. Okay, so you're going to go take away someone's property, potentially their freedom, because you've changed the law, and we're going to look back. Now, if it's going forward, it's a harder argument to make. But the problem I continue to have is that these people operate on the assumption that people are stupid and think that weed is more dangerous than alcohol. And if you do the statistics now and ask people, they go, no, I'd rather see somebody smoking weed than being shit-faced drunk on liquid stupid. But they understand that. And I think that's where the government really can have their pants pulled down here. There's a lot of things you can try to do in court. It may or may not be successful. But from our side, we got to stop. We got to be more militant in our response. We're like, we're on our back feet all the time reacting to what they do. And I'm in favor of a full-on campaign to acknowledge and inform people that this is safer than alcohol. People are turning to it over alcohol consistently. You should not be thrown in jail for making yourself feel better with something that's safer than alcohol personally and for society. And that's where they're weak, because the average person looks at this and go, the kids are not using this much. That's a win. There's not carnage on the highway, which there is with alcohol. It's not happening with weed. Why should people lose their livelihood and their freedom over this intellectually absent discussion? This fear mongering is all it is. And I'm more militant. I want to punch some people in the fucking mouth over this. I'm tired of just hearing this nonsense all the time. And we really have the high ground here. So we're consistently backpedaling when they throw this stuff at us. I want to go after them. The kids are safer, people smoking weed than drinking alcohol. That's a whole, because It's just objectively provable. Society is safer. I mean, there's 150,000 people die from cancer every year from alcohol, 0 from pot. The death highway is almost non-existent for weed. It is just hundreds of thousands out there for alcohol. I mean, it's not even a equal fight. Okay? So we've got to fight the feeling that my mama told me it was bad, so therefore I've got to say this is bad. Because maybe your mama, I don't want to insult your mama, but maybe she didn't know what she was talking about. It's time to open your eyes and take a look at objective science and the statistics of what's actually the sky didn't fall. So stop saying the sky's going to fall.
Yeah.
So well, hold on to your hat, Dale, because if that pissed you off, the article that we just listened to being read is linked to a PDF of a report issued in April by the Texas Forensic Sciences Commission, which re-examined Armstrong Labs and its methodologies. And it says prosecutors and law enforcement should be warned against using these methods to obtain warrants. That report was taken down from the Forensic Science Commission's website yesterday. But just as the House debate was going on, so you see that the fix was in. We had to hurry and scramble to put the copy that we'd obtained prior and keep it on our servers so that our viewers, our readers, can look at the report. But it's been pulled officially for corrections.
Yeah, of course.
This is Soviet Union type.
Yeah.
Double speak and deny the truth and persecute the truth teller. Bullshit. So I'm with you. It's all bullshit. We're going to sue. Later on today, I've got a meeting with David Sergi, who is the attorney who helped us obtain the temporary injunction in Sky Marketing. I helped organize that lawsuit and the legislative efforts before and after it. And so what we're going to do is probably file a lawsuit based on due process. There might be some other things here, but for right now, I think that just shining a light on the nefarious and underhanded techniques that this lieutenant governor wants to employ, and it's really not in the cause of anything Republicans believe in, except that one narrow slice of the Republican electorate that is so indoctrinated against marijuana because of what the 1970 stuff that Nixon pushed in and all of the propaganda that I was raised with. And to just say no, I was in the beta class for that, a beta test class for that, and I didn't even touch the stuff until I was in my 40s because I was so afraid of it.
Yeah.
Well, those folks are never going to change their minds, but they're the ones who get Texas Republicans elected in our primary, and that's why he's doing this. And I think younger people in the conservative side need to stand up and just speak out.
Without a doubt. There was. Oh, go ahead, Jenny, please.
I mean, my concern is, and like I told Stone earlier, I don't envy Texans right now. This sucks for you guys, but if your government and the powers that be are willing to go through so much blatant fucking fraud in this process and so much obvious collusion, I wonder what's going to actually happen, though. Is change possible? I understand that they can pass policy. We see governments all the time pass cannabis policy specifically that they never intend to enact. And so they just bog it down in the process and they just make sure, hey, yeah, we said you could do it. Project completion date 2097. Will this be a similar situation? Because if they're willing to pull this many punches and willing to be this blatant about it, will the will of the constituents ever actually be served out in Texas in the foreseeable future?
The politicians will give lip service to it because we have a compassionate use program, a medical program that is possibly the worst in the country, the most restrictive. You couldn't get it for chronic pain, for example, because people might cheat.
Of course.
And the debate yesterday, Dr. Oliverson, a House member and neighbor to our lieutenant governor, wants to treat this all like it's a medical problem that people are self-medicating for. Whatever it is, those poor people are not getting the advice of us doctors, who mystify the craft and insist that they know better than everybody else. It's a kind of nanny statism it's just enraging, but there's really not much you can do about it when you've got some mom who's talking about her son who became a schizophrenic after he had an edible, and now he walks around vomiting all the time because he's got hyperemesis. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to call bullshit on it. And but Jen, you're right. What will happen is the leadership pivots to teacup and the Texas Compassionate Use Program and says, well, you can get your THC this way, as though that's going to somehow fix the problem that they're going to create, wiping out an industry that's filling, $4.5 billion worth of demand a year.
Exactly.
Who's going to fill that demand? It's not going to be big pharma. Yeah. And the one licensee that we have that is actually operating the compassionate use dispensaries. It's going to be the cartels that are just looking at this as an opportunity. People want to get their stuff; they're going to get it.
Exactly. You're so right, Jay.
And so they've just handed the El Chapos that they want our shop owners to be, so that they can beat them up like a piñata and get what they want out of it politically. They've handed that market over to the real El Chapos, who are the real bad dudes, and who we've been trying so hard to keep our border secure against. They're going to redouble their efforts, and it's going to be a massive problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and we do want to give some props to one of your guys' legislators, though, out there, Jay. Representative Wu Jean from District 137. He had probably one of the most compelling speeches that he delivered last night in this whole debate over there on the Texas House floor. And so want to encourage everybody to donate to that man. He's a true patriot and a freedom fighter, and we need more people like that in Texas legislature overall.
Yes, sir. Gene Wu is a good man.
Yeah. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
8 votes they got last night,
and
many of them didn't want to vote for it, but the budget's being held hostage, and they could not turn away funding for their districts. Or the school bill, which has not passed yet.
All right. Well,
he's got a lock on it.
We are back. We are back, and I do want to make one correction. The representative, I said his name backwards. I apologize, you guys. His name is Gene Wu from District 137, and he is a Democrat. And so I do want to give him props and praise and everything like that. And so I just want to just make sure that you guys are noting too that I am giving credit to Democrats where credit is due when when necessary, you guys. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, man, Jenny Beth, you're going to love this because a judge dismisses a Mammoth Farms lawsuit against a Colorado Marijuana Enforcement Division. That's right. A Denver District Court this month dismissed a lawsuit against Colorado's Marijuana Enforcement Division that alleged the agency failed to protect consumers from contaminated products and ineffectively handed bad actors into the marketplace. That's right. The ruling stated that San Luis Valley-based cannabis company Mammoth Farms attempted to circumvent the normal process for handling disputes involving regulation and enforcement by taking its issues to the court. Mammoth Farms CEO Justin Turod told the Denver Post that he plans to appeal the decision, and specifically Mammoth Farms alleged that regulators ignored companies that are diverting legal weed to the illicit market in other states. It also alleged that the agency's marijuana tracking and testing protocols are insufficient to identify bad actors and allow potentially dangerous products to reach cannabis consumers. A Denver Post investigation this spring found that gaps in the testing oversight allow contaminated weed products to make it to dispensary shelves despite the state's rigorous testing protocols. And in an industry bulletin, the Marijuana Enforcement Division said it remains dedicated to prioritizing consumer protections and preventing youth access, adding the agency will not tolerate businesses that deliberately disregard regulations to put youth and consumers at risk, they say. In a quote, when there are concerns about bad actors and safety risks in the regulated market, a license's willingness to provide information is not something we take lightly, they said Dominique Mendiola, Senior Director of the Enforcement Division, in a statement. And she also says, there are legal requirements we must follow to maintain the integrity and legality of our agency actions, so it's important to let investigations and due process take their course, you guys. Well, they said, hey, Colorado, you guys aren't doing these things right, and we want to take some action. And they just got their lawsuit slapped down because, man, government is always going to win. What do you got to say about this, Jenny and Dale? Jay, too, of course, if you have some comments, we want to hear from you also.
This is about, I think it's about exhaustion of administrative remedies, which is a problem that, businesses have faced for a long time. You've got to go through all the hoops in the administrative process before you actually get to a real court. You could bring up the whole panoply of constitutional provisions and things like that. And it's tough to watch because it's the game that, the government knows how to play. Put these ridiculous regulations in place. And if you want to go challenge them, they make you go start it, and then go around the whole goddamn board before you get permission to go in and really challenge this stuff. Even though on its face, it seems blatantly unfair and unconstitutional. But, it's the world we live in.
Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you guys say, Jenny? I mean, this is the state you started in.
I don't know. Failing to protect consumer safety is one thing. I would have to look at all of the circumstances, Jason, to really truly have an opinion. Yay, the lawsuit was dismissed, but it's a lawsuit against the regulatory body. And did the regulatory body actually fuck up? Were things that are put in place to protect community and protect people who are consuming these products circumvented? If they were, in fact, then I think that fucking sucks that the lawsuit was shut down. But there's a lot of things that come into play here.
So I don't know your state at all, but I can tell you what I do know here is that we don't have a functional regulatory system that cuts both ways. We see politicians resorting to the kind of heavy-handedness that I've talked about because we don't have an agency that's enforcing rules that they have not yet made. That being said, I tried to help a guy that I've been friends with a long time launch a product. We wanted to do a THCA smokable. And what we found was that some of the distributors who were really happy to have a compliant product, knowing that I, because of my work, was never going to put my name on something that wasn't within the law as it stood at the time, and we couldn't sell any of it. And we did an analysis of some of the other stuff that was out there, and it was straight up weed from other states that was being repackaged and purposed, calling it THCA when it wasn't. That's the kind of thing a regulator exists to stop. And it needs to be, we need to have a regulated industry, but those regulations need to work for the people who are within the rules. Otherwise, there is no reason for us to have faith in our regulators or in the law. And you see the kind of piratey outlawishness that, and I use that word with admiration, not with contempt. The kind of piratey outlawishness that gets us into so much trouble from time to time. Feeds into the narrative that we can't be trusted, feeds into the narrative that it's all the reefer madness stuff. But if the regulator is doing their job right, then tearing them down is a big mistake.
But there shouldn't be a problem with regulations if they're targeted and focused, and you continue to come back and look and see, are we getting the results we intended? That's not what happens. We got a regulatory state that exists to stay in existence. Okay? And that's a problem. And if you're going to challenge them, and you're forced to go through the Administrative Practices Act in every state, and it drags it out to the point where it's almost impossible to afford to do something that you should be able to go to a district court, file a complaint, and say, hey, they're violating my constitutional rights. I want you to recognize this and do something about it. It's regulatory capture, and it's one of the reasons why right now there's a sledgehammer being taken to the federal administrative state. Yeah. And whether it's good or bad, I don't know. I'm basically I got a libertarian streak in me. I recognize that we've got to put some limits on businesses because they have shown in the past that they will hurt people for money, okay, or neglect or whatever. Think of the Diamond Waist Shirt Company, all them damn women jumping out windows because they wouldn't let them out. We need regulations. But when you stack regulations on regulations and the target for the regulations you're lost sight of, it's just that, well, I'm a bureaucrat, and my job is to make sure my agency's funded and I keep my job, rather than, are you actually doing what your agency was set up to do? That's where I really part with, the regulatory state. It's overregulated, and it's a dinosaur. And, not that I agree with the ham-fisted approach of everything going on at the federal level right now, but people are just frustrated. They're not protecting people. They're just causing a lot of grief and not really, doing what they're supposed to do, which is make sure products are safe for people, and you can choose to use it or not as long as it's safe.
Yeah. Fair enough. And on that, we're going to roll into our final story of the day today, you guys. And, I thought this would be appropriate, seeing as what happened what happened last night in Texas and what is going on out there. And maybe this can give everybody some feel good, what I'm saying, a little bit, or, help provides a little pathway for you guys out there in the great state of Texas. What's that, Jenny?
You'll put a little Band-Aid on the boo-boo for him, Jason?
So kind of something like that, because let me tell you something. Minnesota cannabis hopefuls and advocates, they rally at the governor's office in protest of proposed sales tax hike, you guys. That's right. Cannabis industry hopefuls and advocates rallied at the Minnesota State Capitol on Wednesday in a protest of a proposed tax hike on retail sales before the legal market is even off the ground. The 2023 law greenlighting adult use marijuana implemented a gross receipts tax of 10% on sales at licensed businesses, and DFL Governor Tim Walz and legislative leaders announced a budget deal last week that increases the rate to 15%. That's on top of the state's sales tax rate of 6.875% and any local sales taxes, and it applies to low-dose THC edibles derived from hemp too, you guys. The group of about 24 people chanted, "Stop the tax, start the market," outside Walz's office as key lawmakers behind closed doors work to finalize the remaining parts of the next 2-year state budget that they didn't pass before Monday's end of session deadline. Lily Fatelli with cannabis consulting firm Blunt Strategies said high taxes mean higher prices for consumers, which puts legal businesses at a disadvantage compared to the illicit market. In a quote, "It feels like a real betrayal, both to the folks that have been very patiently waiting to enter the legal market, but also a really bad public policy decision," said Fatelli, noting the change would also eliminate revenue sharing with local governments that will handle some of the enforcement of the law. Sounds like they took a playbook out of Ohio's play, but nonetheless. The state's general fund ranks in 80% of the revenues from the cannabis, and cities and counties get the remaining 20%. And Fatelli and others hope lawmakers will reverse course before any legislation is final. But both the House and Senate negotiations included the increase in their tax packages they are refining this week before the official special session. Supporters of the move say the new rate brings Minnesota more in line line with other legal cannabis states. And in a quote, they say, there are not across the board tax increases, said House Speaker Lisa Demuth, Republican from Cold Spring, during the budget deal announcement last week. In a quote, she also says, there will be a small increase on the tax on cannabis that is almost right-sizing it. It was very low. We were one of the very low tax states on cannabis, she says. Wow. Cannabis taxes vary from state to state, with rates from as low as 6% to as high as 37% in Washington, according to an analysis by the Tax Foundation. And about half of those states have taxes higher than 10%. And the proposal comes as the state is nearing market launch. On June 5th is the date set for the lottery to choose who will receive one of the capped license types, like growers and retailers, and other types of businesses that don't fall under certain categories and received approval from the Office of Cannabis Management can move forward and prepare to begin operations, like securing and allocating securing a location cleared by local governments. But still, Fatelli, who worked closely on the 2023 legalization bill, believes there will be a months-long delay before businesses start opening. And she says in a quote, I anticipate that we will see some state licensed retailers opening up in 2025, she said. It's likely going to be in the back half of the year. And the first dispensary is set to open soon in Moorhead after the state entered into a compact with White Earth Nation, allowing them to open 8 dispensaries off the reservation, and tribal nations have been able to sell legal cannabis on their land because of their sovereignty. And under this agreement, off-reservation sales will be subject to all of the taxes other businesses face, as well as state regulations, rules for safety, etc., etc., you guys. Man, oh man, they got a big old protest going up there at the Capitol, protesting walls and making him putting his back to the wall, and I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say about this.
Comparing their taxes to other places is stupid.
Yeah.
Because every place that these taxes are like that, the industry's struggling, not going under.
Yeah.
It's just hard to watch this nonsense because state and local taxes are not deductible under 280E. There's a big thing now with salt and the new bill that got through the House last night about $40,000 for salt, things like that. You don't get those kind of deductions.
Yeah.
They hook the cash cow up to a milking machine, it over milks the cow, okay, and then, everybody else is milking at this rate, we're just going to milk like that, and the goddamn cow's dying. Cash cow that they all thought we were not sustain these levels of taxes and compliance costs. It's that simple. Black market wins, and we are struggling just to keep the doors open, and it's like California, we'll just add from 15 to 19%, like it's nothing.
Yeah, right.
This is crazy. It's crazy.
It's batshit lucracy. You got anything to say, Jenny?
I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous, Jason. You know it's ridiculous, and I'm glad they're protesting. But once again, like we've seen protests happen. They're happening in LA right now. They're happening all over everywhere, and they're not, unfortunately, seeing change when it comes to cannabis policy. They don't give a shit about us, and the sooner that we wake up and realize that, it's going to be important.
You got any final thoughts on this, Jay?
I think the only thing that really forces change is leverage. And finding leverage, can come in the form of exposing fraud. It can come in the form of showing how politicians take money where they shouldn't be taking from interests that are benefiting from the overregulation and overtaxation of us. It could take the form of becoming so good at what we do that they can't accuse us of things that we're not doing. Industry can answer all of the questions that in my state, and again, I don't want to talk about others too much, the accusations about, THC content and testing and labeling and all of those things, they can be dealt with. I think industry has got to act in a more thoughtful and concerted way instead of the kind of, I've got an idea, hey kids, let's put on a show, Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney kind of, hey, we're going to, bootstrap ourselves up out of this problem and we're going to show them. That's not going to be effective. And I think it's time for the grown-ups to take charge.
Performances are not going to fix this. I mean, I'm convinced that here in California, we've got to put an initiative back before the voters, pull the government's pants down, and then let them explain why they're doing what they're doing, because the only winners in California are the black market. And that's really what happens here when you have these high taxes and you really can't afford to run a business. You struggle, but you can go find somebody with a brick of weed and turn it into, an eighth and sell it, and you can make money. And no one's there, testing you. No one's taking taxes from you. It doesn't take a whole lot to do that. So the comparison here to the black market and legalized market, it's just not fair. And the more you make it unfair for the legal market, the more the black market thrives. And this is like, in San Francisco when they legalized stealing. Hey, people got really pissed off. It's like, wait a second, you're supposed to be enforcing the law here, and you're not. And I think we can't be performative about this. You're right. We need leverage. And California has the most effective initiative in the country. And I think that's one way we have to fix this. But, we're still on our back feet here, being treated like we are the redheaded stepchildren. And, we're adults now. These markets, like in California, Colorado, are mature markets now. We have years of statistics, not only in the legal market, the black market, how, society is handling this. And I think the average voter is ready to hear this and recognize that this is governmental overreach and it's just horseshit. It's why we are a country, because we said, no, we're not paying your damn tea taxes. Stop this. Time for tax revolts now.
I feel you well on that. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution, Tested, and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media Partners Anthony out there in the metaverse somewhere. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.